Hello BookTube, I'm Jonathan, and here are 5 science fiction books that I can't stop thinking about. Like a cyberpunk Neuralink virus, each of these books has an idea or a concept that has wormed its way into my brain and I just can't get it out. But like, in a good way. Dawn by Octavia E. Butler. Dawn is set in a future where humanity is at war and an alien species called the Oankali steps in order to prevent our extinction. But are they our saviors or our enslavers? This is a first contact story that focuses on characters and cultures. Butler does an amazing job of making the Oankali feel truly alien, and trying to understand them and communicate them is both intriguing as well as frustrating. The biology of the aliens is also interesting, but this isn't a hard sci-fi story, as through the story, Butler primarily explores people and relationships. The book does draw inspiration from events in human history, but it isn't a one-to-one allegory and it still feels like an original story. The book perhaps poses more questions than it gives answers, and it leaves a lot open to interpretation by the audience, which may or may not be to every reader's taste. For me, the middle section of the book that focuses more on the human elements failed to grab my attention the same way that the opening did, and I did find myself just a little bored at times. However, I'm going to remember this book for a long time because of the interactions with the Oankali. This book ebbed and flowed between mysterious and unsettling. It has this unique quality about it that really just got under my skin, and even though it's not overly graphic, it did make me feel like taking a shower afterwards. Overall, this was a 4-star read for me, but those creepy 5-star moments will stay with me for a long time. Galapagos by Vonnegut. Galapagos takes the reader back in time a million years to the year 1986. The story revolves around a fateful vacation cruise that alters the course of human evolution. Vonnegut has an absurd sense of humor, and this book does have some comedic moments, but it's also possibly his grumpiest and angriest book. It cleverly skewers modern society and potential problems of the future. I found the characters entertaining, although they are mostly unsympathetic. This is less a story about a fellowship on an adventure than the ill-fated victims of mistakes that we all are. Intelligence creates innovation, but also the potential to create harm and then rationalize that harm. If only such big brains could be harnessed towards the production of art, or music, or food. This book is second-tier Vonnegut for me, but Vonnegut is my favorite writer, so second-tier Vonnegut is still like a 9 out of 10. If you're interested in seeing my ranking of every Kurt Vonnegut novel, I'll leave the link to that video in the description. More Than Human by Theodore Sturgeon. More Than Human tells the story of a group of characters that have both disabilities as well as supernatural abilities. The story is told in 3 parts, and initially they seem unconnected, but as you make your way through the chapters, Sturgeon cleverly weaves these 3 parts together. And that's the central theme of the book, an organized whole being more than the sum of its parts. This is a soft sci-fi book that uses physical mutations, such as telepathy or telekinesis, in order to explore the ways that humanity might evolve or mutate socially over time. Sturgeon is a beautiful writer, and with his eloquent but restrained prose, he's able to convey the emotion of these themes in a way that I felt to be touching and empathetic. It's one of those books where I don't necessarily remember every single plot point, but I vividly remember how it made me feel. And just before we get to the next book, if you have a sci-fi book that you can't stop thinking about, join us on Discord and let us know what it is. We're always looking for that next brain-melting read. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll be spinning the quantum wheel in order to find the next patron pick of the month. Blindsight by Peter Watts. In the year 2082, a transmission is found in space. So a mission is put together with an artificially intelligent computer, a man with half a brain, and a genetically reincarnated vampire in order to track it down. At first, this book feels like a space opera, but the story is less about a mission to explore space and more of a thematic exploration of the nature of human intelligence and consciousness. It can be a bit of a tough book to read, as Watts doesn't take the time to explain the world or its terminology. You do just have to push through and try to make sense of these things through context. But what anchors the book is the examination of different types of intelligence and his theory on consciousness, which might be the most horrific thing I've ever read. This isn't a graphic jump scare type of horror book. It's a cosmic horror that will leave you with an eerie feeling, a feeling that will have you questioning the nature of existence, and one that just won't go away. I think the final 100 pages of Blindsight in particular are just phenomenal, and I highly recommend this book. Unless you want to be able to sleep at night, then maybe don't read it. Altered Carbon by Richard K. Morgan. 400 years from now, human consciousness can be stored and downloaded into a fresh body. Ex-convict Takeshi Kovacs wakes up in a new body and is presented with a catch-22 offer from a billionaire. Track down the person that murdered the billionaire's previous body. Altered Carbon mixes the cyberpunk, dystopian, and detective genres in a gritty and gripping way. It relies on some familiar tropes in order to create the setting, but then lets you loose down a rabbit hole that plays out in clever and confronting ways. This is a plot-driven book that also explores human nature and hierarchy. It's a hyper-violent book, but not one that glorifies violence. Rather, uses it in order to explore what individuals are capable of, as well as what systems are prepared to do in order to maintain their structure. Scenes that could be described as over-the-top, I found to be haunting, and a rather effective, if not disturbing, means of conveying the message. I think this is an excellent book, but not one for the faint of heart. So those are 5 books that I found impactful or memorable. Let me know your thoughts on them, and if they sound intriguing to you, check out the discount links in the description if you're interested in picking those up. Alright, let's see if we can find our next memorable read as we spin the Quantum Wheel. Welcome to the Quantum Wheel, where all of the patron picks are both simultaneously picked and not picked until we observe a winner. Let's find out what I'll be reading in the month of July. What does the Quantum Wheel have in store for us? A memorable, impactful read, I hope. Looks like What Mad Universe or Annihilation? Ooh, Annihilation takes it. Well, there you go. Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. I did watch the film adaptation several years ago, and I liked it, but I've kind of forgotten quite a lot, so that's probably a good thing. I'm looking forward to picking this one up. It's supposed to have interesting prose. It's a little bit polarizing, but I think people like it. Let me know if you like Annihilation, and if you haven't read it, consider joining me in the month of July. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash or just gently click the subscribe button. And if you really enjoyed it, consider checking out the perks of becoming a Patreon member, such as being able to vote on the Quantum Wheel, where you can become one of my robots, androids, or cyborgs, like Nima, A New Eden, Half Ogre, Zakawe, and the Unforgettable Colin. And you can find more sci-fi content over here.